What happens when a Hollywood star known for staying calm suddenly pushes back live on air after feeling cornered by one of daytime TV's toughest interviewers? Today's conversation on The View takes a turn nobody in the studio expected. Make sure to subscribe to the Star Talks and like and comment for more talk show coverage. The audience claps as Emily Blunt walks onto the stage, smiling politely, waving toward the crowd before settling into her seat beside the panel. Whoopi Goldberg gives her a welcoming nod while Sunny Hostin leans forward with an interested expression. Whoopi smiled. "Emily, welcome back. Always good seeing you." Emily laughed lightly. "Thank you. It's nice to be here. You all make me nervous in the best possible way." The audience laughed. Joy Behar jumped in immediately. "Good answer already." Sunny smiled but adjusted her notes. "You say nervous, but you've done some pretty intimidating roles. I feel like sitting here should be easy compared to some of those movie sets." Emily shrugged casually. "Actually, this is scarier sometimes because there's nowhere to hide. On a film set, someone yells cut." The audience laughed again. Alyssa Farah Griffin leaned in. "That's fair. Live television has consequences." Whoopi nodded. "Especially here." The crowd reacted with knowing laughter. The opening moments stayed warm as the panel talked with Emily about recent projects, balancing work and family life, and public expectations around celebrities. Emily came across relaxed, thoughtful, occasionally self-deprecating. Sunny eventually shifted the conversation. "You've spoken before," Sunny said carefully, "about how people sometimes misunderstand confidence in women, especially in entertainment." Emily nodded slowly. "Yes. I think women are often expected to soften themselves in a way men aren't." Sunny tilted her head. "But do you think there's a difference between confidence and being dismissive? Because sometimes audiences interpret celebrities defending themselves as entitlement." A slight pause. Emily stayed composed. "I think context matters," she said calmly. "Sometimes people assume confidence equals arrogance simply because a woman disagrees." Sunny crossed one leg over the other. "Sure. But celebrities also live very differently than ordinary people. Sometimes there's criticism because audiences feel disconnected." The room quieted slightly. Whoopi glanced toward Sunny, sensing the tone shift. Emily smiled politely. "That's fair," she said. "Though I'd argue most people in public-facing jobs are trying to survive scrutiny, not separate themselves from everyone." Joy jumped in. "You know what I find funny?" Joy said. "People expect actors to explain every opinion they have like they're politicians." Audience applause. Emily laughed. "Exactly." Sunny nodded but didn't move on. "But there's also accountability," Sunny said. "Because sometimes actors comment on social issues while still living incredibly privileged lives." The crowd became quieter. Emily shifted slightly in her seat. "I don't disagree," she said carefully. "But I think privilege and having an opinion aren't mutually exclusive." Sunny responded quickly. "No, but audiences sometimes feel lectured." A tiny pause. Emily blinked. "Lectured?" Sunny leaned forward. "Yes, like when public figures speak broadly about hardship while living very differently from average viewers." The audience murmured. Whoopi stepped in with a half-smile. "All right, we're heating up early." Audience laughter broke some tension. Emily kept her expression measured. "I actually understand that frustration," she said. "But I think there's also an unfair expectation that public people should stay silent to avoid criticism." Sunny nodded slowly. "Or maybe," she said, "there's frustration when celebrities seem disconnected from reality." The energy shifted again. A few audience members murmured louder. Emily gave a small smile, but it looked tighter this time. "I'd hope people judge individuals rather than categories." Sunny didn't back off. "But isn't there a pattern?" Joy leaned back visibly. "Oh boy." Audience laughter. Sunny continued. "You know, actors saying they understand working families while flying private or talking about sacrifice from enormous houses." Alyssa shifted awkwardly in her chair. Sarah Haynes tried to soften the moment. "I think there's nuance there, though." Emily folded her hands together. "There absolutely is nuance." Sunny looked directly at her. "So when viewers hear celebrities talking about struggle, what do you think they're supposed to feel?" The room grew still. Emily paused longer this time. "Well," she gave a short laugh. "I suppose empathy works both ways." The audience reacted with scattered applause. Sunny raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean by that?" Emily's tone stayed calm though firmer. "I mean, people are complicated. Having success doesn't suddenly eliminate pressure, anxiety, criticism, family concerns, insecurity. Sunny nodded slowly. But does it make criticism harder to hear? Emily smiled. Apparently not. The audience erupted into laughter and applause. Sunny smiled briefly, but quickly regained composure. Okay, fair. Whoopi laughed loudly. She got you a little there. Audience applause continued. Emily kept her voice measured. No, genuinely, she said. Criticism comes with visibility. I understand that. What I struggle with is when people assume actors are incapable of sincerity simply because they're successful. Sunny leaned back for a moment before speaking again. But sincerity and self-awareness aren't always the same. The audience made that quiet collective sound that happens when tension becomes noticeable. Emily's smile faded just slightly. I agree. Sunny continued. So would you say Hollywood is self-aware? The audience laughed nervously. Joy shook her head dramatically. Sunny came for blood today. Laughter spread again. Emily laughed too, though more carefully. Honestly, she paused. No industry is fully self-aware. Sunny smiled. But Hollywood especially? Emily hesitated. Probably guilty at times, yes. Sunny looked down at her cards and back up again. Because there are moments when celebrities speak about ordinary struggles and viewers hear something performative. Emily straightened a little. And there are moments, she said calmly, where viewers decide someone is performative before they've even listened. The audience reacted instantly with louder applause. Sunny held eye contact. That sounded personal. Emily smiled again, but this time it felt sharper. Not personal. Observational. Whoopi leaned toward the desk. Hum. Audience laughter. Sunny tilted her head. Are you saying criticism toward celebrities is unfair? Emily shook her head. No. I'm saying assumptions are unfair. A brief silence. Sunny's tone stayed polite but firmer. But public perception matters. Emily nodded once. It does. Sunny added quietly. And when people feel talked down to, they react. Emily took a breath. And when people feel misrepresented, she replied evenly, they react too. The audience erupted again. Whoopi leaned back in her chair. Well, Joy laughed loudly. Okay, now we've got television. The applause continued as Sunny gave a small smile and adjusted her posture, clearly preparing another question while Emily sat calmly, composed, but noticeably more guarded than when she first walked out. Whoopi glanced between them. You two all right over there? Emily laughed lightly. I'm wonderful. Sunny smiled. Oh, I'm just getting started. The audience gasped, laughed, and applauded as the tension settled into the room. The audience was still laughing when Whoopi leaned back in her chair and gave Sunny a look somewhere between amusement and warning. Oh, you're just getting started? Whoopi repeated. That sounds threatening. The crowd laughed again. Sunny smiled. Not threatening. Curious. Emily laughed softly and adjusted in her seat. That somehow sounds worse. Audience laughter followed immediately. Joy pointed toward Emily. See, she knows. Sunny held up a hand with a grin. Okay. I promise I'm not trying to interrogate you. Emily nodded politely. Good, because I didn't emotionally prepare for cross-examination this morning. More laughter. But Sunny returned to the topic with a serious tone. I do think this conversation matters, she said, because there's a growing frustration with public figures, and not just actors, who speak as if they understand everyday struggles while living in circumstances most people can't relate to. Emily listened carefully. I understand that, she said, and I actually think skepticism is healthy. Sunny looked slightly surprised. You do? Yes, Emily replied. I think people should question what they hear. I just think there's a difference between questioning someone and assuming dishonesty. The audience murmured approvingly. Sunny leaned forward again. But don't celebrities contribute to that skepticism? Sometimes people hear interviews and think, this person sounds completely disconnected. Emily smiled faintly. Probably sometimes, yes. The answer seemed to surprise the panel. Sunny blinked. Really? Emily shrugged. Of course. Actors are human. Sometimes people say awkward things. Sometimes they sound privileged. Sometimes they're exhausted and say something clumsy. Joy laughed. That's me every morning. Audience laughter. Emily continued. But what worries me, she said calmly, is this expectation that once someone reaches a certain level of success, suddenly nothing they say can possibly be sincere. Sunny crossed her arms lightly. I don't know if people think that. I think people want accountability. Emily nodded immediately. Absolutely. Sunny paused. But accountability for celebrities often sounds like criticism. Emily's expression stayed calm. Sometimes criticism is accountability. Sunny tilted her head. And sometimes, Emily paused briefly. Sometimes criticism becomes projection. The audience reacted with a louder mix of applause and surprised murmurs. Whoopi gave a quiet Sunny leaned back. What do you mean by projection? Emily folded her hands together again. I mean, frustration exists everywhere. Economic pressure, stress, social media, comparison, it's intense. And public figures become targets because they're visible. Sunny responded quickly. So now celebrities are victims? A tiny pause hit the table. The audience went quiet. Emily blinked once. No, she said carefully. That's not what I said. Sunny gave a small shrug. I'm asking. Emily's tone stayed measured. And I'm answering. The crowd reacted instantly with a mix of laughter and applause. Joy physically leaned back in her chair. Ooh. Whoopi pressed her lips together, clearly trying not to laugh. Sunny smiled slightly but kept going. Okay, answer me this then, she said. Do celebrities sometimes overestimate how relatable they are? Emily laughed quietly. Yes. Audience laughter and applause. Sunny smiled. All right, but, Emily added quickly, I also think audiences underestimate how ordinary many concerns still are. Sunny looked skeptical. Ordinary concerns? Yes. Emily nodded. Fear, parenting, relationships, anxiety, failure, feeling judged. Sunny answered almost immediately. But with resources most people don't have. Emily nodded again. Absolutely. She didn't hesitate. And I would never pretend otherwise. The room softened for a second. Sarah jumped in. I actually think that's where these conversations get messy, Sarah said. People hear someone successful mention stress and think they're comparing experiences. Emily turned toward her. Yes, exactly. Sunny looked thoughtful for a moment. But Emily, can I push back? Emily smiled knowingly. I had a feeling you might. Audience laughter. Sunny continued. Sometimes celebrities do compare experiences. You'll hear somebody worth millions talking about struggle, and viewers roll their eyes. Emily laughed. Honestly? Fair. The audience laughed with her. Sunny looked briefly amused. But, Emily's voice became slightly firmer. But I think empathy gets selective. The audience quieted again. Sunny narrowed her eyes slightly. What do you mean? Emily paused. I think people are comfortable extending compassion to people they identify with. Sunny listened. But once someone becomes famous, Emily continued, there's this idea that criticism becomes deserved by default. Like you signed a contract forfeiting emotional credibility. The crowd responded with scattered applause. Sunny leaned forward again. But you did sign up for scrutiny. Emily nodded. Yes. Sunny continued. So doesn't criticism just come with the territory? Emily smiled. Sure. Another pause. But criticism and contempt are different. The audience applauded louder this time. Whoopi gave a quick nod. That's true. Joy chimed in. Yeah, people online are brutal. Sunny turned toward Joy. Online is brutal to everybody. Exactly, Joy replied. That's why nobody should listen to the internet. Big laughter. Sunny smiled briefly before returning to Emily. But there's something about celebrity culture that frustrates people. Emily nodded. I know. Sunny's voice sharpened slightly, not rude, but more direct. So when actors make statements about the economy, working people, politics, family struggles, can you understand why viewers think, you don't know my life? Emily inhaled slowly. Yes. Sunny waited. But, she asked again. Emily held eye contact. But why is the expectation that I must know your exact life before I'm allowed to care? The audience burst into applause. Several people audibly reacted. Whoopi leaned back. There it is. Sunny adjusted in her seat. No one said you can't care. Emily's tone remained even. I know, but sometimes it feels like compassion gets turned into performance the second someone recognizable expresses it. Sunny folded her arms again. Or maybe people are just tired of messaging. Emily gave a small smile. Maybe. A brief pause. Then Sunny added, You seem frustrated by public perception. Emily laughed quietly. I think anybody sitting under a microscope eventually gets frustrated. Sunny looked at her closely. But you're handling this very calmly. Audience laughter. Emily smiled. Well, internally I'm British. Big laughter rolled through the studio. Even Sunny laughed. Whoopi slapped the table once. Now that is relatable. The mood loosened, but only briefly. Sunny glanced at her cards again. You've talked before about women being judged more harshly. Emily nodded. Yes. Sunny looked up. So let me ask something difficult. Emily shifted slightly. Go on. Sunny paused long enough for the audience to settle. Do successful women sometimes avoid criticism by framing every disagreement as sexism? A collective woohoo spread through the crowd. Joy visibly winced. Whoopi looked up toward the ceiling. Sarah shifted awkwardly. Emily's smile disappeared for the first time. Not angry. Controlled. Measured. But noticeably different. She sat straighter. Looked directly at Sunny. And paused. The silence stretched just long enough to feel real. Then Emily spoke carefully. That, she said quietly, depends entirely on whether someone is asking the question in good faith. The audience erupted. The applause rolled through the studio for several seconds before slowly fading. Sunny sat still, composed, hands folded on the table. Emily remained calm too, but the energy had undeniably shifted. Whoopi looked between them. Well, she said slowly. Everybody sat up straighter. Audience laughter broke some of the tension. Sunny smiled politely. That's fair, she said. And I am asking in good faith. Emily nodded once. Then I'll answer in good faith. The room quieted again. Emily sat back slightly. I think sexism absolutely exists, she said carefully. I also think disagreement exists. And sometimes people confuse the two. Sunny nodded slowly. So you agree successful women can sometimes hide behind that argument? Emily paused. I think anyone can misuse language if it benefits them. Sunny tilted her head. But, Emily smiled faintly. But I also think women are often expected to tolerate treatment men simply aren't. Audience applause followed. Joy immediately jumped in. True. Sunny held up a hand. Okay, but help me understand something. Emily gestured lightly. Sure. Sunny leaned forward. If a woman in power gets criticism, and people respond by saying, you just can't handle a strong woman, doesn't that sometimes shut conversation down? Emily considered it carefully. Yes. The answer landed quickly. Sunny looked mildly surprised again. Yes, she repeated. Yes, Emily said. Of course. A brief silence followed. Emily continued before anyone interrupted. But I'd ask another question. Sunny nodded. Okay. Emily's voice remained steady. How often are women called difficult, cold, emotional, arrogant, intimidating, unlikable, or some variation of that, for behavior men get praised for? The audience erupted into applause. Whoopi pointed toward Emily. That conversation. Joy nodded hard. MHM. Sunny waited for the noise to settle. But couldn't someone argue Hollywood especially pushes that narrative? Sunny asked. Framing criticism of actresses as misogyny automatically? Emily tilted her head thoughtfully. Sometimes maybe. Sunny leaned in again. But doesn't that concern you? Emily exhaled softly. What concerns me, she replied, is when conversations stop being nuanced. Sunny repeated the word. Nuanced. Yes. Emily folded her hands again. Because real life is messy. She looked around the table briefly. Sometimes criticism is sexism. Sometimes it's accountability. Sometimes it's jealousy. Sometimes it's misunderstanding. Sometimes people are just having a terrible day online. Audience laughter broke the seriousness. Emily smiled slightly. We pretend every interaction belongs neatly in one category. Sunny listened without interrupting. And life doesn't work like that, Emily added. The audience applauded again. Sunny nodded slowly. That's fair. For the first time in several minutes, the tension eased. Sarah smiled. This is actually becoming weirdly therapeutic. Audience laughter. Joy leaned toward Sarah. No, therapy costs money. Big laughter. Whoopi laughed loudly. That's why we yell at each other here. Even Emily laughed harder at that. Sunny smiled too. But she wasn't finished. Emily, Sunny said, quieter this time. Can I be honest? Emily smiled. You've been honest all morning. Audience laughter. Sunny laughed. Fair enough. Then her expression became more serious. I think where some viewers struggle is this feeling that celebrities can challenge criticism, but ordinary people feel talked over. Emily's smile softened. I understand that. Sunny continued. And sometimes interviews sound polished. Media trained. Controlled. Emily nodded slowly. That's true. Sunny raised an eyebrow. So are you media trained right now? Audience laughter returned immediately. Emily paused, then smiled. Probably failing at it. The audience burst out laughing. Sunny laughed too. No, seriously. Emily looked thoughtful. I think experience teaches you how to speak carefully. Sunny nodded. But carefully isn't always honestly. A tiny silence landed again. Whoopi muttered quietly into her mug. Oh Lord. Audience laughter. Emily turned toward Sunny. You think I'm avoiding honesty? Sunny shook her head. No. Then paused. I think you're very good at answering. Emily smiled. That sounds suspiciously like criticism. Audience applause exploded again. Sunny laughed despite herself. See? This is why people like you. Emily answered immediately. Or dislike me. A ripple of laughter followed. Sunny leaned back. You know what's interesting? She said. You push back very politely. Emily nodded. I was raised to apologize while disagreeing. Huge laughter. Joy wiped at her eyes. That's the most British sentence I've ever heard. Sunny smiled again but quickly returned to the issue. But politeness can still avoid substance. The crowd reacted with quieter murmurs. Emily's smile faded just slightly. What substance am I avoiding? Sunny hesitated, then decided to say it plainly. The reality that celebrity influence sometimes feels performative. The audience went quiet. Emily looked at her for a second longer than usual. What does performative mean to you? Sunny answered immediately. When public figures speak passionately about ordinary struggles while still remaining insulated from consequences. Emily nodded slowly. That's a fair concern. Sunny waited. Emily continued. But here's where I struggle. The room quieted again. People talk about celebrities like we're a single personality. Sunny listened carefully. Emily gestured lightly with one hand. Some are thoughtful. Some aren't. Some are performative. Some are sincere. Some are informed. Some absolutely shouldn't have microphones. Audience laughter and applause. Whoopi pointed. She said it, not me. Emily smiled briefly. But reducing everyone to hypocrisy feels intellectually lazy. The audience reacted loudly. Sunny's eyebrows lifted. Intellectually lazy? Emily immediately softened her tone. I don't mean people are lazy. Sunny tilted her head. You kinda said it. Audience laughter. Emily laughed too. Fair correction. Then Emily straightened slightly. I mean, we sometimes choose easier narratives. Sunny crossed her arms loosely. Like. Emily answered without hesitation. Celebrity equals fake. The audience quieted. Emily continued. Or criticism equals hate. She paused. Or disagreement equals disrespect. Sunny listened closely. And I don't think any of those are automatically true. A brief silence settled over the table. Whoopi finally leaned in. Can I ask something? Everyone turned toward her. Whoopi looked at Emily. Do you think Sunny's being unfair to you? The audience instantly reacted. Sunny laughed. Oh wow. Joy physically leaned away from the desk. Nope. Nope. I'm staying out of this. Laughter rippled across the room. Emily looked at Sunny. Sunny looked back. Emily smiled politely, then paused, long enough for the room to notice. Well, the audience leaned in collectively. Emily gave a tiny laugh. I think Sunny came prepared. The audience laughed loudly. Sunny smiled carefully. That's diplomatic. Emily nodded. You asked. Whoopi grinned. No. Answer it. Audience applause grew louder. Emily glanced briefly at the crowd, then back to Sunny. And for the first time all segment, her tone sharpened just a little. I think, she said calmly, sometimes difficult questions stop being curiosity and start sounding like conclusions. The audience erupted again. The audience applause stretched longer this time. Not explosive. Not chaotic. The kind of applause that happens when people feel tension but aren't entirely sure whose side they're on. Sunny sat back for a moment, lips pressed together in thought, while Whoopi looked between them with the expression of someone trying to decide whether to move on or let the moment breathe. Joy broke the silence first. Well, audience laughter. Joy shrugged dramatically. I was planning to coast through this segment. More laughter. Sunny smiled briefly, then looked back toward Emily. You think I came in with conclusions? Emily stayed composed. No, she said evenly. I think some of the framing did. Sunny nodded slowly. Explain that. Emily folded her hands together again. Sure. Her voice remained calm, controlled. When someone gets repeatedly asked to defend an entire category of people, eventually the conversation starts feeling less personal and more symbolic. The room quieted. Sunny listened carefully. Emily continued. I'm one actor. She gave a small smile. Not the spokesperson for celebrity behavior. Audience laughter broke the tension slightly. But I understand why these conversations happen, Emily added. People are frustrated. Sunny nodded once. That's true. Emily glanced briefly toward the audience. And honestly, some criticism is deserved. The crowd murmured. Sometimes people in entertainment say things that feel disconnected or insensitive, Emily continued. That happens. Sunny leaned in slightly. So what bothered you? Emily paused, then answered plainly. The assumption. Sunny looked thoughtful. What assumption? Emily's tone stayed measured. That because someone succeeds publicly, sincerity becomes suspicious by default. A few audience members applauded. Sunny nodded slowly. That's fair. The answer surprised the room a little. Whoopi noticed immediately. Oh, audience laughter. Sunny smiled. No, seriously. She turned toward Emily. I push because I think audiences ask these questions privately. And sometimes somebody has to ask them publicly. Emily nodded. And I respect that. A brief pause. Then Emily added with a smaller smile. Even if I'm sweating internally. Audience laughter returned. Sunny laughed too. You hide it well. Emily responded instantly. That's years of British emotional suppression. The audience burst out laughing again. The tension eased noticeably. Sarah smiled. Okay, now I feel like we're healing. Joy pointed across the table. No, they're healing. I'm exhausted. Big laughter. Whoopi leaned forward. But I do want to say something. The audience quieted again. Whoopi looked toward both women. This actually felt like a real conversation. She gestured toward the desk. Nobody yelling. Nobody storming off. Audience laughter. People disagreeing without acting like the world ended. Applause followed. Sunny nodded. And disagreement matters. She turned slightly toward Emily. I ask hard questions because viewers are skeptical. Emily answered calmly. And I pushed back because sometimes skepticism sounds like certainty. The audience reacted again with applause. Sunny smiled. Fair. For the first time all segment, the atmosphere genuinely softened. Whoopi exhaled dramatically. Look at us growing. Laughter spread again. Joy shook her head. Speak for yourself. The segment began winding down, but the audience energy remained unusually attentive. Whoopi turned toward Emily. Before we let you go, any final thought? Emily paused. The room settled. I think disagreement's healthy, she said. I really do. She glanced briefly toward Sunny. But I think curiosity matters too. Sunny nodded. Emily continued. If we decide what someone means before they've fully spoken, nobody actually learns anything. The audience applauded warmly. Sunny smiled. I can agree with that. Whoopi pointed immediately. There. Progress. Audience laughter. As the cameras widened and applause continued, Emily stood, hugging members of the panel one by one. Sunny stood too. Their interaction drew attention immediately. There was a brief pause. Then Sunny smiled and lightly touched Emily's arm. No hard feelings? Emily smiled back. Only emotional trauma. The audience exploded with laughter. Sunny laughed loudly. Fair enough. Whoopi shook her head. She's funny. That's why she survives. The audience applauded as Emily waved and exited backstage. But the conversation didn't end there. When the show returned after commercial, Joy immediately laughed. So, are we pretending that didn't get tense? Audience laughter filled the studio. Sunny smiled. I think respectful tension is okay. Whoopi nodded. That's television. Later that afternoon, clips from the exchange spread online. Some viewers praised Sunny for asking difficult questions. Others praised Emily for staying calm under pressure and pushing back without raising her voice. Short clips began circulating with captions like Emily Blunt claps back calmly and Sunny Hostin pushes Emily Blunt to the edge. Comment sections filled quickly. Some viewers called it refreshing. Others debated whether Sunny had pushed too hard. Many simply said it felt more honest than celebrity interviews usually do. One thing most people agreed on. It felt real. By evening, social media conversations kept growing as viewers replayed specific moments. The laughter after awkward pauses, the audience reactions, Emily's careful wording, Sunny refusing to soften difficult questions, and Whoopi quietly trying to keep everything balanced. Even entertainment commentators began debating who won the exchange. But viewers watching the full conversation noticed something else. Nobody really won. Nobody really lost. Two people disagreed in public and stayed in the conversation. And somehow, That became the real story. So what do you think? Was Emily right to push back, or was Sunny asking fair questions? Share your opinion in the comments and subscribe to the Star Talks for more real talk show stories.